morning and welcome to Markets Media Video. I'm Terry Flanagan, editor at Markets Media. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Bill Bierds. Bill is President and Chief Business Development Officer for BCC Group, and Bill Fenick. Bill Fenick is VP Enterprise for Interxion. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. If I can just ask each of you to briefly introduce yourself, tell us who you are and why you're here.
First, I want to first of all thank Bill Fenick for taking the time to participate and to Interxion for helping us sponsor this BCC Group 5-part series on market data in the cloud. I also want to thank Markets Media, Terry, David, and Haley for helping us pull this together. As Terry mentioned, I'm Bill Bierds. I am the president of BCC Group. I come to this business with 30 years experience in financial services, working for Citigroup as well as for IBM. I've been working the past 3 years with Maurizio Gonzalez-Evans, and we've been exploring market data in the cloud through our flagship product, the One Platform. I look forward to sharing with you some of the things we've learned from our clients that are also participating in this journey.
Terry mentioned I'm Vice President of Enterprise at Interxion. Interxion is a digital realty company. We were recently acquired by Digital Realty, and the deal closed, as a matter of fact, in March of 2020. My past experience, I've been with Interxion for approximately 7 years, but prior to that, I was with Tibco, Reuters, and then Thomson Reuters for about 18 years, working a lot in the market data arena, as well as the low latency and trading space. So really a fair amount of experience in this whole theme. And excited to hear more about the market data in the cloud. Bill and I have been speaking about this quite a bit recently, and just we see this as really the next wave, if you will, of market data. So very excited to be here with Bill, and thank you, Terry, for hosting us.
Looking at the current landscape in these very interesting and challenging times, more people have learned to perform tasks remotely, and not just talking to individuals here, but also workloads. Bill Fenick, if I can ask you to start, how are you seeing this play out in your business?
Well, we're seeing some of the natural tendencies that one would assume from a workload perspective, as everybody's working remotely these days. Clearly, bandwidth is at a premium, so a lot of the connectivity providers and the internet providers are increasing their bandwidth considerably. We're also seeing that through enterprise applications, be it on the Cisco front, the Microsoft front, or whomever. And once again, supporting the remote working atmosphere. Cloud has taken a particular big jump in this with the software as a service type of applications, be it Office 365, Salesforce, as everybody seems to be connected one way or another to some type of central hub or artery. The applications running on everybody's private laptop or company laptop are, as a rule, software as a service. So a lot of the things that we're seeing are very much as one would expect. One of the very nice things, though, that we're experiencing quite a bit is the fact that projects for a lot of enterprises and financial services players are moving forward at a much more rapid pace. People seem to have more time and attention to give to details and to push things forward. So we're seeing a real acceleration, if you will, in projects across the landscape.
We're actually at an inflection point with the cloud, with financial services. I think financial services has lagged the market in the use of cloud. They are definitely more cautious about moving. But I think COVID-19 and what's going on right now has created a whole new imperative, a whole renewed imperative. And I actually akin it to 9/11. When banks and financial institutions had to look more carefully at where they were running their high availability and their disaster recovery workloads. You could no longer have that kind of workload sitting in a neighboring data center or someplace locally. You had to move things to other cities around the world. I think we're seeing the same thing with COVID-19. I think this very strange time and this very sad time in our history is forcing leaders to rethink the cloud and to rethink where their workload is running and who is running their workload. And does it make sense for the public cloud to be the area where this is all being done? And that's why I think this is an inflection point. I think you're going to see, as Bill said, a lot more acceleration into the cloud. And I think market data is certainly one area that is just ripe and ready to go.
And Bill Beards, if I can stay with you, the markets media audience is primarily financial services and capital markets. But certainly this is going on. We're seeing this in other industries as well. So what have other industries learned about the cloud that might be applicable or interesting for a financial services audience?
We're being approached, Terry, by a lot of different industries at the moment to help them with managing their data, whether it be real time streaming data or it be historical data or delayed data or whatever. Manufacturing industry, the utilities industry, human resources, retail, as we all know, is very much in the cloud already, as well as many of the local and federal governments are also in the cloud as well. Financial services is catching up, I think. But I think what they're finding in these other industries is that the cloud has been tested. The cloud is secure. The cloud is reliable. And I think people are rethinking whether their on-prem deployments, their on-premises deployments are as reliable and are as latency sensitive as going to the public cloud. So, I've seen ultra low latency workloads now moving into the cloud, with middlewares and with the cloud becoming so much more reliable and so much more capable. Ultra low workloads are now moving there as well. So I think this is a big change for the market.
Bill Fenick, you moved from finance to a broader remit in your professional role a year or two ago. I think. What are you seeing from other industries outside financial services?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, maybe to latch on a little bit about what Bill Bitt was just mentioning. I'm seeing a lot of the practices that were put in place in financial services years ago being applied much more in the enterprise space as a whole. We do talk about low latency in the enterprise space. It's not just a domain that the hedge funds or the prop shops talk about. So latency has a real measurement, and we're being asked more and more about that. But as Bill mentioned, the financial services perhaps was a little bit later to the cloud for reasons of caution, for reasons of regulatory purposes, etc. But we do see that acceleration happening now. We see the adoption of the cloud becoming more and more prominent. From a data center perspective, we see a lot of these large financial services and enterprise players coming to us wanting to shut down their proprietary data centers and move as many workloads to the cloud as possible. And then the workloads that cannot move to the cloud for either latency reasons or performance reasons, they want to put directly next to the cloud because the data is being shared so often between workloads running in the cloud and workloads running adjacent, if you will, or next to the cloud. So that's where this whole idea of co-location is becoming more and more prominent across the board, not just in financial services, but in the whole of the enterprise space as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good segue into the next question. We're talking about market data in the cloud, but if we could drill down a little bit and talk about some specific workloads therein. What's important about some of these workloads? I'm talking about maybe analytics, algorithmic modeling, regulatory. What's worth bringing up here?
Well, I think regulatory, of course, is one of the more prominent ones, where the data is actually residing. Of course, in Europe, there's GDPR, which is being adopted either directly or indirectly by many countries outside of Europe. So data sovereignty has become a very big play in this whole thing. As mentioned, security has, of course, always been a very strong driver, either in the adoption of cloud or indeed people going perhaps a bit slower in adopting the cloud. So security has been a big play as well. But I think in the main, it's around the data, it's data sovereignty that is one of the biggest factors of adopting cloud.
From my point of view, Terry, I think adding on to what Bill said, I think regulatory is certainly a priority space. I think that as clients are looking to get a better control over what data is out there, who's using what data, there's just so much regulatory concern. But I think even more important is analytics. I think clients are finding that the more data they can get their hands on and more reliably and more quickly, the better they can do analytics, the better they can do big data. They're also finding that algorithmic modeling can be so much further advanced by having access to real-time streaming market data and real-time streaming data, period. So the whole environment is changing, and I actually think of it a little bit of like almost like the main, bringing all of this to the mainstream. The firms that today, a lot of the sell side firms have tons and tons of resources in place to do all this analytics and all this algorithmic work. But a lot of the small firms, the buy side firms, don't have that. The cloud is bringing that. It's democratization, really, of data. That's happening here, and I think we're seeing that happen before our eyes. Real-time streaming data for analytics is not something people are doing a lot of today. A lot of the data is being held in lakes, and it's historical data and delayed data and this kind of thing. So we're bringing real-time data to do real-time analytics for machine learning and so forth. And the cloud is making all of this possible. The one platform, our product, coupled with the cloud, is making all this possible.
Bill Bierds, if I can stay with you, the bottom line question here: how can the cloud help companies better monetize and get the most value out of their derived data?
Well, that's the key here, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you can create more data, you can create more analytics and do better algorithmic modeling in real time, and you can create more derived data in real time, then you create a new revenue stream for your firm. Monetization has been a challenge for years. A lot of firms have had data out there that they have had very little control over. They don't know where their data is. They don't know who's using their data. And so with the permissioning capabilities of products that are out there, including the one platform, as well as the cloud, you can now make this kind of monetization possible. We like to think that these firms will be driving new derived data at a much more accelerated pace and creating more revenue for the firm over the long term. And we're seeing that with our clients today. We're seeing this every day. Clients are coming to us with these use cases and wanting to do these things. And by the way, this is a big investment for them, and we know that, and we think they'll see the return on that investment.
Derived data is essentially synthetic data, and if you think about it, a lot of firms produce data. Data, of course, as one hears, is the new gold, etc. What's interesting around running analytics, particularly analytics in the cloud, is the fact that you can dial it up and dial it down. So if you've got your monthly Monte Carlo analytics or what have you, proverbial is the Monte Carlo, but it could be heavily cost effective to be able to run those type of analytics in the cloud itself. We see data though across the enterprise space in multiple ways as well. We see it in an IoT format, for example, as preventive maintenance. And we should remember that financial services as well run tons of workloads where they need that preventive maintenance. They need to pick up the data coming from either their systems, their machines, their workloads, what have you, to do that. So there's definitely, as Bill mentioned, a monetization part of that derived data. But even proprietary data, sometimes just simply company data, running some preventive maintenance of an IoT nature could mean a real difference for some of these companies. I think, I talk to my team a lot about it. The reason people do projects, the reason people really initiate something is either to improve customer service, to have more cost efficiencies, or to mitigate risks. And in terms of the data and pulling your own data, that kind of covers all three of them. So data really is, in many respects, the new gold for these enterprises.
Okay. And are there concerns about the cloud? Or talking about whether it might be security, cost, performance, reliability? If people have these type of concerns, how would you address those concerns?
Sometimes they can be just as basic as something that's physically auditable. We've seen that in some of the services that we offer, where we offer a managed hardware security module, where if you're adhering to a PCI PIN type of regulation, it needs to be physically auditable. And this is difficult when you put all your security and your workloads into the cloud. It's the physical nature of auditing it. So that's one aspect. And it might be a small aspect, but sometimes it becomes a showstopper in terms of security. Other issues are that it's a new way of doing workloads, spinning up workloads. And the security and the control over that. At times, people would like to pause and understand how can they control it better or secure it better. So, but I think the adoption of it is at such a pace and rate right now that people's confidence levels are quite high.
Yeah, from my point of view, the other industries have done a lot of work with cloud over the past 10 to 15 years, and they have proven to the market and to the world that the cloud is ready. And the reliability and the security, and yes, of course, there have been issues in the past, and yes, there are, of course, have been isolated incidences that may cause concern. But I think that ultimately those concerns have been addressed and they've been dealt with. So I think we obviously we've got to make sure that we're focused on this. We've got to make sure that the environments are set up and established in a way that's proper, that covers all auditing and regulatory and compliance requirements. But I think financial services is certainly primed and ready to move forward on this.
Okay, I think we're winding down here. Just if I could ask a two-part question as a finale. What do you think is the future of market data in the cloud? And second part of the question is, what would you think, say, is the key takeaway for the listener?
I'll go first, Bill, and I'll let you have the final word on it. But
thank you, Bill.
I see the cloud as really the great innovator, and I think people will continue to innovate on it. So I see market data very much in the future of sitting in one type of cloud or another, be it on the edge, be it as an aggregation point. But I really see people being able to innovate quite a bit. And my guess is that in 5 years' time, what we have today will look quite different. And that will be due in large part to people adopting the cloud and leveraging it to its best effects. And that's why I think it's been really fun to chat with Bill and the rest of the company about some of the innovative products that they're putting out there, and to understand how they're really moving the needle in looking at ways that companies can drive data more efficiently. But I'll give the last word to Bill.
Thank you. What I would say is this: I think that firms need to think out of the box about what's possible. I think in particularly in the market data space, firms have been relying on models that were defined by firms 4 decades ago, and they've been living by those models for so long. The cloud is a major disruptor, and I think that what's possible is certainly up to your imagination, right? I mean, market data. We've proven that market data can be delivered via the cloud. We've proven that the time sensitivity and the reliability of market data has been addressed using the cloud. So firms should be looking at what internal data they have, what external data, what data they want to share with clients or with other financial institutions. Anything that they need to move around financial data is viable for the cloud now. But let's think beyond financial data. Let's think into IoT, as Bill mentioned, IoT, metering, statistical data, alternative data. I mean, the possibilities are really endless where this can go for the market. And I'll just mention as a commercial that this is the first of a 5-part series sponsored by BCC Group and by Interxion and other sponsors. And we're going to talk a lot about the cost of the cloud, the performance of the cloud, the reliability of the cloud, the security of the cloud. But we're going to talk about analytics. We're going to talk about monetization. We're going to talk about things that other firms are doing today. And we're way upstream. If you're familiar with the Jeffrey Moore book, Crossing the Chasm, we're way upstream right now when it comes to the adoption of the cloud. And the possibilities, as I said, are endless. And we look forward to taking this journey with Interxion, with Markets Media, and with all the folks that are working with us.
Great, gentlemen. Thank you very much for an insightful discussion here. I'm Terry Flanagan at Markets Media Group. I've been speaking with Bill Bierds of BCC Group and Bill Fenick of Interxion. Please do stay tuned for subsequent content on the topic of market data in the cloud.